Story 1. Growing up, I always looked forward to my birthday. It was a day of celebration, joy, and the promise of gifts and cake. But when I turned 16, everything changed, and what should have been a day of happiness turned into a nightmare I'll never forget. It was a sunny afternoon, and my parents had planned a surprise birthday party for me at our family cabin, deep in the woods. I'd always loved the serenity of the forest, so it seemed like the perfect place to celebrate. As we drove through the winding, tree-lined roads to the cabin, I couldn't shake an odd sense of unease. When we arrived, the cabin appeared as picturesque as ever, but something felt off. The air was heavy with an unnatural stillness, and the usual sounds of chirping birds were absent. My family brushed off my concerns, attributing them to my nerves. The party began, and I couldn't help but feel that the woods were watching us. As night fell, my unease only grew. It was then that we heard the distant sound of a music box, playing a hauntingly familiar tune that sent shivers down my spine. I couldn't place the melody, but it felt like a memory from a childhood I couldn't recall. I excused myself to investigate the source of the eerie music. As I ventured deeper into the woods, guided by the faint sound, I stumbled upon an old, dilapidated shack. The music grew louder as I cautiously approached. When I pushed open the creaking door, I was met with a chilling sight. Inside, there was a table adorned with a tattered birthday cake, its candles flickering eerily. The walls were covered in faded photographs of me, from my earliest days to recent events. I couldn't understand how these images had ended up here in this remote cabin. Suddenly, the music box stopped, and the room plunged into darkness. Panicked, I tried to leave, but the door slammed shut, trapping me inside. In the blackness, I heard a whisper, soft but malevolent, saying, "Happy birthday." I fumbled for my phone to use its flashlight, and as the light pierced the darkness, I saw them, shadowy figures lurking in the corners of the room, their eyes glowing with an unnatural crimson hue. They chanted in unison, "Happy birthday to you." Fear paralyzed me, but I knew I had to escape. I lunged at the door, and with all my strength, I managed to force it open. The figures retreated into the woods, still chanting, "Happy birthday to you." I stumbled back to the cabin, my family oblivious to what had just occurred. I tried to explain, but my words fell on deaf ears. They insisted it was just my imagination running wild. Years have passed since that night, but the memory still haunts me. I never discovered the identity of those shadowy figures or the origin of the mysterious shack. To this day, I dread my birthday as the haunting tune and chilling whispers echo in my mind. Story 2. It was my 30th birthday, and I decided to celebrate by renting a cozy cabin in a remote, picturesque mountain range. The cabin was nestled amidst towering pines, offering breathtaking views that promised solitude and serenity. As I arrived at the cabin, I couldn't help but admire its rustic charm. Inside, I found a note left by the owner, a warm welcome message, and a quaint antique music box. The note mentioned that the music box was a special gift to commemorate my milestone birthday. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the sky was painted with hues of orange and pink, I decided to wind up the music box and listen to its sweet melodies. The tinkling notes filled the cabin, creating a tranquil atmosphere. It was a perfect moment, or so I thought. Later that night, I awoke to a strange sensation. It was as if someone was watching me, lurking in the shadows. My heart pounded as I searched the room, but I found nothing out of the ordinary. I chalked it up to my imagination and tried to go back to sleep. The next morning, I woke up to find the antique music box had moved from the shelf to the foot of my bed. I was certain I had left it on the shelf before falling asleep, An unsettling feeling crept over me, but I brushed it off, thinking it was a bizarre coincidence. Over the next few days, things grew progressively stranger. Objects moved on their own, and eerie whispers filled the cabin at night. I couldn't escape the feeling that someone, or something, was trying to communicate with me. On the eve of my birthday, I decided to record the strange occurrences on my phone. As I played back the recordings, I heard faint, ghostly voices, speaking in a language I couldn't understand. They seemed to be urging me to leave, warning me of impending danger. That night, I lay in bed, wide awake, dreading the hours ahead. As the clock struck midnight, the antique music box began to play on its own, its notes twisted into a haunting melody. I watched in terror as shadows danced around the room, coalescing into sinister figures. I fled the cabin, leaving behind my belongings, and ran down the moonlit forest path. I could feel their malevolent presence pursuing me, their whispered warnings growing louder and more urgent. I didn't stop until I reached the nearest town, where I sought refuge at a motel. I never returned to that cabin in the mountains, but the memories of my 30th birthday still haunt me. To this day, I wonder about the secrets hidden within that antique music box, and the chilling entities that seem to have claimed it as their own. Story 3. I've always loved my birthday. It's a day to celebrate being alive, to spend time with loved ones, and to eat cake. But my 18th birthday was different. It was the day I learned that there are some things in this world that are more terrifying than anything you can imagine. It all started when I got a mysterious package in the mail. The sender's name was illegible, and the package was unmarked. I opened it up, and inside was a single birthday candle. I thought it was a strange gift, but I didn't think much of it. I put the candle on my cake and blew it out. But as soon as I did, I felt a strange chill run down my spine. I looked around the room, but everything seemed normal. My friends were laughing and talking, and the music was playing. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Later that night, I was lying in bed, trying to fall asleep, but I couldn't stop thinking about the birthday candle. I kept imagining that I could see it, glowing in the darkness. Finally, I got out of bed and went to the bathroom. I turned on the light and looked in the mirror, and that's when I saw it. There, on my forehead, was a small, red candle flame. I screamed and ran back to my room. I locked the door and hid under the covers, but I could still feel the candle burning on my forehead. I didn't know what to do. I was scared and confused. I didn't know how the candle had gotten there, or why it was burning. I lay there for hours, too afraid to move. Eventually, I fell asleep. When I woke up the next morning, the candle was gone, but the scar on my forehead was still there. I've never been able to explain what happened that night, but I know that something strange and terrifying happened to me on my 18th birthday.